Hello, my name's Brandon Stover, and today we're going to cover the options available for editing your podcast and how you can begin editing yourself. We're going to cover three things: editing yourself versus outsourcing to someone else, the different editing softwares you could use, and a sample process for you to get started editing your own podcast. Now, why do these topics matter? If there's one thing that scares potential podcasters the most, it's editing the audio. However, it's not as scary as it seems, and it becomes easier with practice. I actually recommend every podcaster start by editing their own episodes, because you're going to take the pride and effort in your work to make it fantastic. You will also be listening to hours of your own voice, which will point you to where you can improve your craft as a podcaster behind the microphone. If you were to go back to some of my first episodes, they weren't very good, and it can actually make me cringe a little sometimes to go listen to them. But over time, I've gotten much better because I've spent time listening to and editing my own show. But let's first discuss editing yourself versus outsourcing. Editing a podcast can be a really time-consuming process. And depending on how polished you want each of your episodes to be, whether you've gotten out every single or yeah or whatever, pulling out all of those different things in a podcast can take a long time. Also, if you didn't spend the time up front creating a good recording environment, it's going to increase the difficulty, complexity, and amount of time that you have to spend editing. If you're editing yourself, you can expect to add on at least another hour or two after you record an episode in order to get it ready for publishing. And when you're editing and producing your own shows, it can be really easy to edit too much, to hear all those mistakes and want to go in there and try and correct every little thing. But the more you rely on editing, the less you're actually going to improve as a person behind the microphone. So if you force yourself not to edit too heavily, you're going to improve your craft. So if you have the time available to edit your own podcast and are willing to learn a little bit of the editing softwares, I highly recommend editing your own show for the reasons I spoke about before. But what if you decide later on, hey, I really want to scale up my podcast and I'm going to be doing lots of episodes every week? When you make this decision, every single episode comes with more hours of editing on the back end. So this may be a good time to think about outsourcing or building a team to help you produce the podcast. And you can find plenty of people to outsource to online. There's everybody from people on Fiverr all the way up to professional editing services, depending on where you are in your podcasting journey and how big you're going to scale this show. And when you're scaling the show, odds are you're going to be bringing your own producers and audio engineers to help you manage and edit your podcast for publishing. So periodically evaluate where you are in your podcasting journey, how large you want to scale the show, and start looking for ways that you can outsource this publishing to someone else. Now let's talk about the various editing softwares. The best three options for editing the sound quality of your podcast episodes are Adobe Audition, Audacity, and GarageBand. Now you may recall that these were the same softwares that we used to record our episodes when we were recording a solo episode. Each one of these softwares has its own editing capabilities and different functions to help your audio sound professional. The first option is Adobe Audition, and this is what I personally use to edit my podcast. You can pay for this application individually or as part of the Adobe Creative Cloud package. Adobe Audition comes with the most options and the most robust ways that you can edit your audio to make it sound professional. Option 2 would be Audacity. This has been around for many years, and it's free to download and use, and it's still an industry favorite. And then number 3 is if you have a Mac, you can use GarageBand, which is often preloaded onto your computer and is absolutely free. We'll include extra resources in the links below so that you can start to gain mastery of Adobe Audition or Audacity or GarageBand. Now, once you've edited the sound quality of your episode, the second piece of software that I highly recommend is using Descript. Descript allows you to edit your podcast episode much like a Word document where you can copy and paste and move things around. Now, it's not necessary to use Descript. Plenty of podcasters just do all of their edits in one of the 3 programs I mentioned before. However, I have found that it speeds up my editing process significantly. So in the example process I'm about to go through here in a moment, I'll share how you can go from Adobe Audition to Descript. All right, now let's cover the process of editing one of your podcast episodes. So in order to put together a full podcast episode, you should have recorded some episodes either by doing a solo topic-based episode where you recorded on something like Adobe Audition or another recording software on your computer, or you've done an interview-based episode where you've recorded with a guest on something like Zoom, Squadcast, or Riverside. No matter what type of show you've done, you've either created a WAV file or an MP3 file that we can now start editing inside of Adobe Audition. Now I'll mention a few effects inside of Adobe Audition that often sometimes help with editing your podcast for better sound quality. And many of these can be found within the effects rack. So what I recommend doing is kind of playing around and seeing which effects may help your audio. Depending on what type of recording environment that you have, you may need to use more of these than others. So one of the first functions that you can do when editing your podcast is to get rid of any background white noise that may be going on. And this could be any fixed noise like your fan, someone washing the dishes, or any light talking that's happening far away. Anything that the microphone is picking up in the background. And you can fix this really easily with the noise reduction function inside of Adobe Audition. Basically, you would pick an audio sample from your audio and then click the noise reduction function, and it will go through and fix all of those background white noises. Another function that helps out a lot is a parametric equalizer. And in one of those, there's a voice enhancer, and this will just help the clarity of the spoken words so that it comes out more clear. The other function I want to bring your attention to is under the noise reduction and restoration effects. And so here there's a few that may be beneficial for you depending on the type of environment you're in. So one of them that I have to use sometimes because I moved to a new place and have a little more reverberation with inside my recording area is I have to use the de-reverb. So this will bring down some of that reverberation so you get crisp audio instead of having that that echoey feedback from your recording. Some others that may help are the clip or the pop eliminator. So that's going to get rid of the poppy noises. The hiss reduction process, which will get rid of this sound that you hear sometimes. And then some other ones like denoise, adaptive noise reduction, automatic click remover, and automatic phase correction. Play around with those and see if they help out your audio. They're just, again, getting to make the spoken words more crisp and getting rid of that background noise. Once you've got your audio sounding really crisp and clean, then you're ready to move this over to Descript. So you'll go ahead and save your file inside of Adobe Audition or whatever editing software that you're using. And I recommend saving this out as a WAV file. Adobe Audition already automatically does this, but a WAV file doesn't compress the file down so you get the highest quality that you can. When you export as an MP3, you're getting a smaller file size, but you're going to lose some of that quality. Now it's time to move over to Descript. So go ahead and open up Descript and create a new project for this episode. Once you've done that, now import the WAV files that you just edited. So if you did a solo topic-based episode, then you're just going to have one file you're bringing in. If you did an interview episode, then you have two files that you're bringing in. Your next step is to transcribe this. So click on those files, hit transcribe, and this is going to allow you to work with it like a Word document rather than having to look at the audio waveforms that we just seen when we were doing stuff in Adobe Audition. And if you're just doing a solo topic-based one, it's just going to transcribe that file. But if you did an interview-based show, then you're having two files that you're transcribing. And if you transcribe them at the same time, Descript is going to bring up a pop-up that asks you if you would like to create a multi-track composition from these files. Basically, what that's going to do is take each file and put them in sync with each other so that their timing is both correct, and it'll put it into one Word document composition. Now, this is really nice because now you can work with it as one file, but if you needed to edit anything or delete a specific part from just one side of the audio, let's say you were asking a question and on your guest side of the audio, a dog barked, you can go to just their audio and delete the dog bark without having to delete your spoken word in your question. It's really nice to have those two separate tracks. Once the transcription is done, now you can start moving around the spoken word by editing it like a Word document and moving around questions, removing any fluff, and adding in any other spoken word you would like. So if there's certain sections that you want to move around, say you asked a question at the end of the interview that you think would actually be really great at the front of the interview, you just go ahead and cut that portion, just like you would in a Word document, and paste it to the top. Now you notice I said removing the fluff. So let's talk about this real quickly. What exactly is fluff? It's the extra stuff people talk about that doesn't really have anything to do with the focus of your episode. And it's stuff that's not going to be very helpful to your audience, which is basically a waste of time. Now, what counts as fluff is going to be different for every audience. So the key thing to think about is to sit in your listener's shoes and see it from their point of view. Ask yourself, what do they want to listen to? Now, obviously, they want to listen to stuff that's going to help them out. So you want to get the meat of your content as quickly as possible. Now, that said, personal stuff is also pretty important because that's the stuff that people connect to. This could be banter about your kids or your family, things like hobbies or what you like to do. And these things really help to connect you on a deeper level to your audience beyond the content that you produce. So remember to keep one or two little personal things throughout the episode. So now Descript also has a function that allows you to automatically remove all the ums, yeahs, and likes. And so you would go ahead and just go to edit and hit the remove filter words. You can also start adding in other files. So maybe you've recorded your intro and outro. We want to bring those into your file. You're going to add in your intro and transcribe that. Once the transcription's done, you'll paste it at the top of your composition. Now you have your intro added. Then you're going to bring in your outro. So import your outro file, get that transcribed, and add it to the bottom of your composition. And adding in any additional things that maybe you forgot to record before. Descript also allows you to add in music. So import those into your file. You can also bring in things like transition music. So that's a short little transition noise that'll bring you through segments of an episode, or some background music that you may have somewhere else in the episode. Make sure you import those in and place them in the proper place in your composition. Now there's lots of other functions that can be done within Descript, but those are the major ones that you would be doing for your editing, moving things around, deleting any silences or giant word gaps that you may have, and cleaning up just the script and spoken word. Once you've done that, do a quick look through of your entire compositions, make sure everything is where you would like it. And now you're ready to export it and start publishing your podcast episodes. What you're going to do is go up to File, Export, and it's going to bring up a pop-up for some different things that you can export. So you'll click Audio, and what you'll see is some different options for you to export your audio. You're going to want to export as an MP3, and then there's a few settings that you're going to want to do to make sure that it's a good file size. So for the audio, you're going to export the sample rate as 4800. The audio bit rate is 96 kbps, and normalize the volume to -16 LUFS. You also want to add in the metadata. So these things will include the show title, the episode title, description of the episode, and our artwork. Once those things are filled in, just click export and your file's ready to go. And so our exercise today is to go through that process for each one of your episodes that you've created and get it ready for publishing.